Hi, I'd like to talk about a recent trend in the trucking industry where companies are putting driver-facing cameras in the cabs of their trucks. Now, I know the vast majority of drivers think this is an invasion of their privacy and that if they drive for a company that has driver-facing cameras, it'll cause them problems. I felt that way too, but I recently started working for a company that has driver-facing cameras in their trucks. And I've been with them about 2.5 months, and I can honestly say that having a driver-facing camera is not as bad as I thought it would be. It is actually much, much worse. The driver-facing cameras are absolutely horrible in every way that you would imagine they are, and a couple that you probably didn't even think of. They are unfathomably terrible. I strongly advise you to not even consider working for any company that has driver-facing cameras in their trucks. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about the problems with driver-facing cameras. I'm going to bring up a whole bunch of the arguments that I hear defending driver-facing cameras, usually from the companies that sell them or the trucking companies that have installed them. And then I'm going to talk about the actual debate of the merits of them that we should be having. The first argument that I hear a lot defending the driver-facing cameras is that they're a benefit to the drivers because they'll exonerate us in the event of an accident or some other incident where the footage has to be shown, in court. And that's just simply not true. Now, at my orientation, someone from my company, I think it was our director of safety, showed me a video designed to help sell drivers on the driver-facing cameras. In it, we had our driver-facing camera, which we keep them mounted about here, just slightly in front of the driver and slightly to the right, aimed down at us and out the driver's side window. Well, we had a driver who was on an on-ramp trying to merge onto a highway, and a pickup truck passed him on the on-ramp, driving, with his tires onto the, median, and it was just totally reckless. And they almost had an accident, but the truck driver, reacted in time. Now, if that had been an accident, this camera absolutely would have helped exonerate that driver. It would have shown that, the pickup truck passed on the on-ramp. It had footage that captured the rear view mirror, or the mirror, and, showed everything. The problem with this is that the benefit there came from outside the truck. The actual footage of the truck driver was worthless in that, and it would be in any scenario you can pretty much come up with. Now, external dash cams, the forward-facing ones, if companies want to put more of them on the outsides of the truck, those are absolutely great for everyone. They're a benefit to the driver, they're a benefit to the company. There's no debate on that as far as I'm concerned. But I can't even come up with a scenario where footage of the actual truck driver would be of a benefit. Now, another problem I have with these cameras is that for some insane reason, the cameras in the cabs of these trucks record audio. Now, that's no benefit to anyone as far as I can fathom. There's no benefit to the company, there's certainly no benefit to the driver, but recording people when they're driving that's one of the worst times to record someone. In fact, let's hear comedian Patton Oswalt try to explain it. I think he can do a better job than I can.
If the FBI or the CIA, I just hope they never bug my car. Put a microphone in my house, my office, I don't care. Don't bug my car. When I'm driving alone, the stuff that comes out of my head when I'm bored my car. If my car has ever been bugged, they've never taken that microphone out. I am the CIA's Christmas party every year. Where they're like, we have another Oswald, here we go. Just hours of me just sitting there going, I said to driving around. There's a a lot of Mexicans out today. A lot of Mexicans in my way. I like tacos. Oh, I got the cutest little puppy in the world. Yes, I do. He's a little sweetie and he's waiting at home. And he's got a bed and playing with a bone. Send an APB to the Burbank cops. There's a thief made of cinnamon and lemon drops. He's covered in fur from his nose to his feet. He's a crazy kissing man of Lincoln Street. All day, alone in my car. It's pathetic. Pathetic! Guys, make the eggnog. We got another hour of Oswald. He sings all of ABBA Gold on this one. It's horrifying. And Seeger's playing on the radio. He sings over it. It's insane.
Okay, if you've ever driven a truck, or even if you've just driven long distances in your car, you can relate to that. As a truck driver, yes, I talk to myself sometimes. I sing, even though I can't sing at all, and I certainly don't want anyone hearing that. I listen to questionable music that I don't really want people knowing what my taste in music is, people that I work with, or anyone. I listen to podcasts, which I can't do any of those things with a driver camera recording the audio. I can't listen to podcasts because I don't want people at my company knowing my opinions on politics or anything else. It's none of their business. Can't listen to comedy for the same reason. Most comedy these days gets political, whether you want it to or not. I listen to some music I listen to a lot of music that I don't necessarily want people knowing I listen to. I don't do that with these cameras. I don't talk to myself. I certainly don't sing. You just go down the road, stressed out, not doing anything except getting more stressed out by the cameras. That's what these do. And this ties into the whole, these cameras will help exonerate you in the event that there's a problem lie. Now, first of all, footage of you is never going to be useful in court. It can hurt you if you're doing even like a tiny thing wrong. Even if you're just, you took a sip of water at the wrong time, that could bite you with these cameras. Even if you're doing everything perfect, it's like there was no footage. That's worthless. But let's just say the 10 million to 1 shot happens, where some far-fetched scenario occurs where you're in court after an accident and the footage of you not doing anything wrong actually does help you. Was it worth it? I mean, they have footage of you doing everything right. You look like you lived in a dumpster for the last 2 weeks. You're disgusting. You don't want anyone to see you. You're singing a medley of the most embarrassing songs that could ever get stuck in your head. It's like you're singing Girls Just Want to Have Fun, which somehow turns into the theme from Thundercats halfway through. But, you're not doing anything wrong. Are you glad that footage was shown in court? Probably not. You know what? Let's have a look at this, an excerpt from this Saturday Night Live skit where a man was accused of murder falsely, and his lawyer decided to use his internet browser history as proof of his alibi that he was home that night.
Your Honor, none of this proves he was home all night.
Well, he was. And if these texts weren't enough to prove that, I would like to present my client's internet search history from that evening.
I'd rather just confess to the murder.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that footage shown either. I have no idea why they think it's a good idea to record audio. At the very least, if companies would stop doing that, the problem would only be half as horrible as it is. But for some reason, these cameras record audio. Okay, the next argument that I hear defending the driver-facing cameras is that they only record in the event of an incident. So you really shouldn't object. You're not being recorded all the time. Well, first of all, you are being recorded all the time. If there's any sort of an incident, the camera backs up and saves 15 seconds or so before that happened. So you're on edge the entire time you're driving because any moment could end up being recorded. Second problem with this is by an incident, they mean anything. Not a hard brake event, not a a near rollover event, but like a brake event. Just normally using your brakes, just normally making a turn. These things set off the driver cameras. Just a casual turn, not too fast, braking nice and casually and smoothly. These things set it off because this whole only getting triggered during an event thing isn't to protect the drivers. It's not a benefit to you as a driver, to make you not on camera all the time. It's because they have people actually watching all of this footage to try to catch you, with, doing things wrong. And they don't want to watch your entire, 11-hour driving day. So the cameras are designed to try to catch the times where you're most likely to have done something wrong. And that's why they do that. But there's no benefit to you because, like I said, at any given moment, something could happen in 10 seconds that causes that to have been recorded. So you're never off camera. You never feel relaxed. You can never let your guard down. Any moment could be recorded and seen by anyone. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about isn't so much an argument for the driver-facing cameras, but an annoying thing that people who defend them tend to do. And that is referring to the cameras as event recorders. Now, the company called SmartDrive, which is the main company that sells dash cams that have the driver-facing optional add-on, their website is loaded with propaganda that they encourage companies that install these cameras to, regurgitate to their employees to try to sell us on, the idea that these cameras might be a benefit to us when they're not. And one of the things that they encourage is to always call them event recorders. Don't use the word cameras. Because if you call a camera an event recorder 500 times, I guess it magically stops being a camera. Now, we have a guy at our office who does this. Anytime someone says cameras, he immediately snaps and corrects them and calls them event recorders. And I don't blame him. And I don't even blame the people who work at trucking companies who have convinced themselves that these cameras are a benefit to the drivers. The people who, at this point, if they're watching the video, are disagreeing with me. Because I'm looking at it from their perspective. If I was a former truck driver who had a cushy office job, where I didn't have to sleep in a tractor trailer, I got to go home every night. I had a really good job at one of these companies, but then the company started doing something as evil as putting driver-facing cameras in all of our trucks. Well, I wouldn't give up that job for it. I would think about it, but I wouldn't. So I would probably try to convince myself they're not that bad also. So to some extent, they're trying to convince us that the cameras aren't that bad, but I think they're trying to sell themselves on it too. Another argument that I hear defending the driver-facing cameras is that companies don't want you to be distracted by small electronics in your truck. So they figure if there's a camera on you, you're less likely to use your cell phone, which is true. Ironically, you're not going to be distracted by your cell phone. But since they didn't want you distracted by a piece of small electronics, they put an even more distracting piece of small electronics in your truck that you can't get rid of. I've driven with one for 2.5 months, and I can tell you, these cameras are extremely, extremely distracting. I would actually feel safer probably fiddling with my cell phone, which I wouldn't do while driving. That's just backfired. And not only is it kind of balance itself out? Yeah, you'd be distracted by the camera instead of your phone. But a lot of the good drivers who wouldn't be, giving themselves distractions while driving, we now have one that we didn't ask for and we can't get rid of. Okay, another argument that I hear trying to defend these driver-facing cameras is that people in other industries like gas stations and fast food restaurants have had cameras on them for years. So why should truck drivers be any different? Well, I have a couple of huge problems with that argument. First of all, if you work in a retail establishment, you sleep at home in an apartment or a house, you get a shower every day, you work in public for 8-hour shifts, so you're presentable the entire time because you're going to be around the public. Truck drivers, we work 13-hour days, we're away from home 2 weeks at a time, Some of us are away a lot longer than that. We have a lot of trouble trying to get showers anywhere close to as often as we wish we could. Basically, when we're out there, we have a lot of times where we look like we just crawled out of a dumpster. I mean, trucking will really strip away your humanity sometimes, no matter how hard you try, to stay clean and presentable. We all have a lot of days where we're just a mess, we're disgusting. All we care about is getting 250 miles down the road to the next spot where we know we can get a shower, because that's just how the schedule worked out. I know the account I'm on, it happens literally every run because I'm on a loop, and I have a day like that that's just horrible. And all you can think about at a time like that is just making it to the next spot where you can clean yourself up, and you don't want to be seen by anyone. You go through weigh stations nervous, you're hoping you don't get a random inspection because you don't want to deal with people, you don't want people to see you like that. And you have a high definition camera right in your face the entire time, recording you when you're at rock bottom. That reminds me of when you see footage of celebrities at airports where they just got off a really long flight. Sometimes it's an international flight. It might have been the 17-hour flight from New Zealand to the United States, and they're miserable. They look like they're a mess, and they're swamped by paparazzi with cameras. And that's when you see them they lose it. They're miserable. Sometimes you actually see them, assault paparazzi or say horrible things. Well, let's just have a look at Bjork, and maybe she can explain it better. Okay, that is something celebrities have to deal with once in a while, which is really horrible. But that is your existence. If you're a truck driver for a company that has driver-facing cameras, you're Bjork at an airport every day. And frankly, people who are working at Burger King or Circle K or Turkey Hill, those are convenience stores or gas stations, if you don't know, they don't have to deal with that. Another huge problem I have, and I've managed restaurants for years. I actually worked for a Circle K franchisee here in Florida, where I was the guy that was in charge of, reviewing all the security tapes when necessary. And I can tell you a couple problems that are different between truck drivers and people in those scenarios. First of all, the cameras in a restaurant or a gas station, since they record 24 hours a day, and there's like 12 of them, they have at best 480p resolution. Usually it's only like 360 by 240, like old time cameras, because they need hard drives to retain this stuff for weeks. And they're not right on a person. You'll have one like way up in a corner getting a big view of the entire restaurant, or maybe you'll have one directly on the cash register drawer. So if money goes missing, you can see the cash. You don't have them right on a specific person, and that's not a big deal. Having just a low resolution camera just capturing you in general, as opposed to HD, a third the distance away from you is the camera that I'm talking to right now. The camera in my truck, I can reach up and grab it without even leaning forward. It's that close to me. This one's like a good 4 feet away, and this is just a close-up video of me. The other big difference is in restaurants and gas stations, people aren't watching those videos unless something actually happens. Most months, no video will be watched at all. If some money goes missing, you'll watch the video of that cash register and figure out the problem. If there's a gas station and suddenly there's you see a bunch of medicine missing, you'll watch the videotape of that aisle, and you'll fast forward and skim through and try to catch a shoplifter. In trucking, the videos are used, they're watched. All those videos are watched by people who are just looking at your behavior to correct it. So, they're going to tell you if you did something wrong. They're looking for you using your cell phone or, having other bad habits. That would be the equivalent of if fast food restaurants started installing cameras on their registers that are just right on the register, aimed at the cashier, only record when you're taking an order. And then every day the manager went through, watched all the video, and then when the cashier came in the next day, they're like, hey, listen, yesterday you had 5 customers that you didn't upsell to larger drinks. Yeah, you got to do, upsell every single customer even when we're busy. Then they went back to the guy in the kitchen and they're like, we watched your tape and we noticed when we get busy, you're not putting 3 circles of ketchup on every burger. You're, just starting to put blobs to go a little faster. You got to put 3 circles on every burger. Yeah, if you micromanage people like that, even in a restaurant or a gas station, no one would work for you. They would go to a different restaurant. Like, they wouldn't even put up with that level of micromanagement at any job. But that's what the cameras are for in trucks. Another argument that I hear, and I hear this one a lot actually, defending the driver-facing cameras, is that, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then you shouldn't mind the cameras. Okay, well, if you work at a trucking company, and you work in the office, and you honestly believe that, then try this. Install cameras in every stall of your bathrooms at the office, aimed at whoever's sitting on the toilet. Now, if the people working in your office aren't doing anything wrong in the bathroom, then they shouldn't object to the cameras, right? Or is it possible they just don't want to be videotaped when they're on the toilet? Well, when we're working 13-hour days in your trucks, we don't want to be videotaped. Doesn't mean we're doing anything wrong. It just means that's a horrible thing to do to us. Okay, now that we've pretty much established that the cameras are not a benefit to the drivers, and in fact they're really horrible for the drivers, let's have the debate that we should be having, the one that we would be having if companies didn't spend so much time trying to convince us that the cameras are a benefit to us. And that is, do the benefits of these cameras for the companies outweigh the negatives that they inflict on the drivers? I mean, they do have some benefits. A driver is less likely to use their cell phone or have bad habits while driving if they know they're on camera. I don't know statistics on how much better they would be. It would be hard to find accurate ones since most of them would come from the companies trying to sell the cameras, so not exactly trustworthy. And if you do have a driver who's doing bad things anyway despite being on camera, maybe you can catch them and either correct their behavior or get rid of them before they have an accident. Granted, even drivers with bad behavior don't always have accidents. So it's hard to put a value on that, but there are undeniably benefits to the companies. Are they worth what they do to the drivers? Well, what they do to the drivers is they make your life a living hell every minute that you work for these companies. So absolutely not. I don't care what the benefit is, it is not worth it. This is the worst thing companies have done to drivers in a long, long time. It is inexcusable. Unfortunately, not a lot, most companies don't have driver-facing cameras. What some companies are doing is they either don't realize how bad these cameras are for the drivers, or they don't care, and they're making the decision based entirely on the benefits to them. Fortunately for drivers, there is another huge problem for the companies, which is a lot of drivers won't drive for a company that has these. Take a look at Swift. I believe they're the largest trucking company in the United States. A few years ago, they put in driver-facing cameras in their trucks. And about a year later, they took all the driver-facing cameras out of their trucks because they realized no one would work for them anymore. If you can't hire drivers and you can't keep the drivers you have, that kind of hurts when you have to weigh that against, the possible benefits of having these cameras. So fortunately, I don't think we're going to hit a point where every company has these. A lot of companies have made the decision to never put them in, and even some companies that have put them in have realized their mistake and taken them out, which I think that's the direction we're heading. I think most of the companies that even have them are eventually going to get rid of them. But I'll tell you, I will never drive for another company that has driver-facing cameras. They are so bad that even if the industry went in the totally other direction of what I'm expecting and every company put them in, I would just leave the industry. I would literally not drive a truck anymore if the only option was to drive for a company that has driver-facing cameras. And that's my recommendation for you also. Do not do it. Do not consider it. It is not worth it.